I think the term outspoken to me means being willing to go out there and say what you want and say what's in your heart and not be afraid to say it and not be afraid of how people are going to react.
I found that when people are calling me outspoken, which happens a lot, they're typically referring to my tendency to identify systemic problems and demand solutions. And it's interesting because it's been used to compliment me for my willingness to say the thing that needs to be said, and also to deride me as a person who is constantly a problem and never a solution.
If there's never been a time for marginalized people to be outspoken, it is right now. Because if nothing else, 75% of the people are listening and taking action.
So now is the time where we have the ears. This is where we need to speak up. This is where we need to talk about these things. They're listening. This is our chance to further the conversation and actually change what has been wrong for so long.
I mean, especially in this industry, I think such an important thing to be outspoken. You always seem to have to fight negativity. I think it's the only way to combat that.
There are so many situations where I'm not allowed to have an opinion that's critical. And if I get angry for any reason, I'm an angry black man. If I'm frustrated for any reason, I'm an angry black man. If I express disdain about something, I'm an angry black man. There's no around it.
There's just so many isolated cases of things that have happened to marginalized people that you live in this bubble of thinking it's only happening to me. And if I say anything, I'm just a complainer, you know, and I can just press through. And marginalized people need to be done with being strong and pressing through. And it's time to be heard so action can be taken. I will say the worst situation, and for me, the reason why this is one of the worst ones is because of the number of times it's happened. Just this one ongoing joke is a director, stage manager, someone will call a blackout. And I'm the only black person in the show. And someone will inevitably say, "Where's Lisa?" Or "Lisa, smile so we could see you." Or some other, microaggression like that.
I have a degree in opera singing. I have went abroad and I've sang opera across the seas in Europe, specifically in Germany and France. And I've directed opera, I have been music director, and I do a whole bunch of things. And yet, when I audition for musical theater, I am consistently told that the only thing I know how to do is sing a church torch song. Like, that's what I am. I'm a sassy black actor who can sing the church torch song, and that's what I'm good at.
The story that I wrote on the Facebook page happened when I was, I want to say 15. It was the summer after my freshman year of high school. And I go in one day, and all the girls are at the table, they're in the lobby, and they're doing like each other's hair. And so they had all these like hair clips on the table, and there was this one hair clip that had a big flower on it. I said, "Ooh, pretty," and I took it. It's one of those snappy, unsnappy things, and I put it in my hair. And the girl started screaming to the theater manager, who had nothing to do with the play. He wasn't on the production team. Like, all he had to do was make sure that the place was open when we got there and locked up when we left. And this guy got me, dragged me to the office, sat me down, and started berating me on why I would even need to put a hair clip in my hair. And then he looks at me and says, "Do you have a dick or do you have a pussy?" Flat out like that. With like anger. It was anger. And I remember this like it was yesterday. This has stuck in my mind since then. And I went into the rehearsal, which I was then late for. And so the stage manager, who's the only woman on the production team, came up to me and asked me why I was late. And I told her everything that happened. And she got furious. And she looked at me and she said, "That was sexual harassment." And he was barred from the theater for the rest of the production, but he wasn't fired. He still had his job. Nothing ever changed. The people that are running that theater, though he's not there anymore, are still the people that kept him on. And he directed kids' shows after that. Nobody really ever had a problem with it.
Even like small things, like if you're in a show and it's a house that provides you with undergarments and tights, and you're told as a black actress or female actor, woman actor, that we can find everyone else's color, but we can't find your color or your size. You get the whole sizeism, racism thing going on, right? And so you need to buy your own. And there's been times when makeup was provided, specialty makeup was provided, and because you're black, we can't find your shade. I'm like, it's funny, I can find it, but you can't find it. The list is like I said, really vast. And that's why, when we go back to being outspoken.
I remember I worked at a theater one time that had been bringing in people of color for years. And the last season that I worked for them, they had brought in all of these people of color, all of these queer people. It was a hugely diverse, beautiful company. And like, people in the community were drawing swastikas on the sidewalks. Like, we were getting into these like heated debates at the local bar because the locals were offended that there was a trans person of color, a trans femme person of color in the company that season. Like, and the company wasn't really able to defend these people. We by the company, I mean the administration of the theater, we as company members were, on the streets, on the ground, doing all of this legwork. And the theater company was just like, oh no, they're here, right? That's what you wanted. You wanted a diverse cast. Well, yes, we wanted diverse casting, we wanted diverse hiring, but we also wanted the support.
Being told, you were the best person that auditioned, but I can't see casting you because you're black. The drive home, that was told to me. The drive home from that was emotional at best. But it's this whole thing of questioning who you are. How can I can practice and learn and train under different directors and coaches, but one thing I cannot change about myself is my blackness. There's nothing that I can do about how I came out of the womb. And for you to say you were the best person, I would love to cast you, but you're black. And the show literally had nothing about race, ethnicity, or culture in the description. It was an American story. So yeah, it chips away at your soul. And it makes you, I think about those folks who are like, forget this. I'm just gonna go do a 9-to-5 job. This isn't worth the cost of my humanity.
And then, people wonder why we don't like going out and auditioning and being in these communities and why we ignore the emails and why we ignore the messages and stuff. It's because we get put in these situations that are so soul-crushing, and we have to fight these battles by ourselves. Now, granted, I'm pretty strong, so I fought all my battles by myself my whole life. So I got me. But there's a lot of people who don't have that strength, and it's disheartening, and it destroys their whole love of the art, and that needs to stop. It really does.
The change that needs to happen is because not 1, 2, or even a couple of hundred people are being harmed. This is industry-wide, and it might be societal. Is this the way our society is set up? Because if it is, there's a deeper dive we need to take. The industry needs a sweeping out change from the decision-making standpoint,
I want to start a theater company that does size-blind, color-blind casting. It has nothing to do with how you look. It has everything to do with what you bring to the table.
I wish that all theater companies could designate a single production in their season to be a new work entirely designed and led and curated by marginalized people and written by marginalized people, directed with all of the same funding that every other production receives.
From funding, from who's telling these stories, who's writing these stories, who's behind the camera, who's behind the production desk, who's in the director's chair.
and the best person for the role gets the role every single time. That should not be a controversial, radical idea to do. You know, if they're the best for the role, they're the best for the role.
And honestly, the stories need to reflect the way that our dinner tables look, the way that our friendships look.
I would like to see more people have a voice in the room. I would like to see more racially diverse casts, just in general.
Because I cannot believe that we are living in a vacuum of just all white people, white, cisgender, straight, able-bodied people are living in a bubble, and that's what, you know, the film and theater and performance and arts industry is going to continue to show. I think it really took a plague to kill a plague, right? So COVID came in, and that was the time where theater and the industry of film, everything, we stopped, right? And with the Black Lives Matters movement, I felt this was something that was in my head for a very long time. And it was like, now's the time to, if we're not gonna do it now, if we're not gonna make people safe in theater now, if we're not gonna make people safe in the arts now, we will never make people safe. So just like we have to make people safe on the streets from brutality and being harmed, we have to do the same thing with this industry. We have to make it where not only am I as an artist have a safe space, those people who are in the audience watching. Because if we continue these tropes of horrible stereotypes or the mentality of only white men with power make theater, make art, then that's harm. And we're gonna have to stop that harm.